what makes young people crave the rave.
I'm curious what makes you so curious. What makes you so curious.
In the beginning was the beat.
Welcome to the Rave Curious Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Glazer. What are we curious about? We're curious about electronic music and the culture that surrounds it. And how do we satisfy that curiosity? We do it by talking to some of the DJs, promoters, producers, and other people who have dedicated their lives to the electronic music scene. Today on the podcast, I spoke with Erick Morillo. Erick is a Grammy-winning DJ and producer from New York, who was huge in the 90s house music scene. He's also responsible for one of the most ubiquitous records of the past few decades, I Like to Move It, which he recorded as reel-to-reel when he was 21 years old. That song's just, kind of one of those perennial pop earworms that, kind of everybody, at least, everybody over 30 recognizes this song. And now, thanks to the Madagascar movies, everybody under the age of 10 knows the song as well. So, something 80s babies and millennials have in common is I Like to Move It. Not that Erick's really been, doing much with that song the last 23 years. He's not out performing it. He's actually run the incredibly successful Subliminal Records, which put out, some of the all-time great underground house music songs, or, kind of crossover house music tunes. I didn't really know what to expect sitting down with Erick. He's the first guest I've had on the podcast who I did not previously know. I caught him DJing once in New York in the late 90s, but we had never crossed paths. And his publicist reached out to me asking if I'd like to interview him for the podcast, which was cool. It's the first time somebody has reached out to me to be on this podcast, opposed to me calling friends and so on and so forth. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I did a little Googling to see what he's been up to. And he actually, he had a pretty public breakdown a few years ago in 2013 when he had to be kind of escorted off the decks during, one of his sets. And, it turns out he is, he spent the last two and a half years, kind of getting sober, getting his head right. A fairly common story, one that he's willing to go into in great honesty and great detail, which I thought was pretty cool. For someone sitting down talking to a complete stranger. So yeah, that's what we have in store. Before that, we have a quick conversation that I had with photographer Michael Tullberg. Michael just put out his first book. It's called Dance Floor Thunderstorm, Land of the Free, Home of the Rave, and it chronicles the Southern California rave scene from the mid-90s until the early 2000s. Michael took a lot of the classic photos that via magazines like Herb and BPM really kind of became some of the iconic images from that era. And he put out this book, came out a couple months ago, and it's really cool. Full disclosure, I actually worked on the book as the editor, and we talk about that a bit, and we talk about that scene. So that's first. That's about a 12-minute interview. And then we're going to go straight into my conversation with Erick Morillo. As always, if you like the podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes. Also, do us a real solid if you want to write a review on iTunes. Apparently, it makes a huge difference in helping more people find the podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook or on Twitter, Rave Curious. And yeah, so here we go. First, quick conversation with Michael Tullberg, followed by a longer conversation with Erick Morillo on the Rave Curious podcast. Thanks for listening.
All girls all over the world. Original man, stop man, pon your case, man. I love how all girls are move them body. And when you move your body, wanna move it nice and sweet and sexy. Alright? Come on, you cute. How you doing?
Back in my old Premiere days.
Premiere?
Yeah, American Premiere years ago.
What was that?
That's actually how I was really supporting myself during the rave days. I was writing comedy for a national comedy radio network, which was owned by Premiere. And I would, in addition to writing, I would do voices from time to time with some really awesome
Can we hear a voice? Do you want to do this interview in one of your voices? So we're here with
people would be very confused to hear like Beavis and Butthead talking about rave.
I think that could be exactly what people want right now. We're here with photographer Michael Tullberg. He has a new book out, which I think it's the first of its kind, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a little bit about.
That is correct, Josh. The book is called Dance Floor Thunderstorm, Land of the Free, Home of the Rave. And it is the very first book of its kind here in the United States. It's the first full-sized coffee table photo book that really chronicles the rise and the glory years of the rave scene in North America in the 1990s and 2000s, and particularly here in Southern California, since this area was pretty much the center of raving culture during that time period. There's material in there from other cities and other places, as well. But in those days, LA really was the place to be, especially considering the different venues that we had available that other places didn't have, as in partying in the desert, partying on a mountain, partying on the beach, partying. We weren't just restricted to warehouses, and certain kinds of clubs and the like. So
right, and this book is all your photos.
Yes,
that's really the focus of the book. It's a photo book, although it does have quite a bit of writing.
It does. It is primarily photos, and back in those days, in the 90s and 2000s, I was writing and photographing for all the major dance music magazines in this country, Herb, BPM, Mixer, Insider, etc., and some abroad as well. Occasionally my stuff would end up like in Mix Mag or Q and stuff. And so I amassed an enormous library of images, like somewhere in the area of about 100,000. Wow. I mean, I literally have bookcases full of slides and negatives, wonderful relics of the analog era. And but there is also quite a bit of prose in there, some of my own writing. There's some new DJ interviews that I put in there with DJs like Christopher Lawrence and Mark Lewis and Sandra Collins. I mean, I just wanted to make the book as complete as possible without trying to write a rave encyclopedia or something like that.
Well, that's really the challenge. And full disclosure for the listeners, I edited the book.
No.
On more on the text end. I kind of let you and our designer Revis Graphics kind of handle the images for the most part.
Yes.
But that was one of the challenges we faced was what do you cover, what don't you cover, what is a rabbit hole, what rabbit hole do you go down, what rabbit hole do you not go down. And
when we would go back and forth in our editing sessions, there were some times that I was a bit surprised of what you left in and what you cut out, and all that. I mean, but as the editor, I mean, I did very purposely leave that in your hands. I mean, I chose very purposely not to interfere as much as I possibly could.
And I appreciate that. I think it probably also helped that I was living in Berlin and you were in LA. So the time zones that we were dealing with,
believe me, getting up at 5:30 in the morning
so we could have our conference call.
There was no advantages to doing that.
But I think and I came at it from a slightly different perspective because I actually wasn't in LA during this time.
That's right. You came from a different part of the country.
I moved to LA from Detroit in 2003, so which is basically when this book ends. This book basically covers
96 through 02.
Right.
And this is what I refer to in the book as the second wave of the rave scene. Because if you look at the history of this scene, you'll see that it has not gone up smoothly, uninterruptedly, like a nice clean line graph or something like that. It has
far from it.
Yeah, very far from it. It has come and gone in waves. And the first wave being roughly 1988 through 94, which is, when the seeds of this whole thing basically were being sown, and they had the first very few early successes and stuff. And then the second wave, which is the time period of the book, which is roughly 96 through 02, and that's when everything exploded pretty much for everybody. Not just here in LA, but, all over the country. I mean, this is when, the budgets began flowing into rave production companies. They could afford reliably, the overseas talent, people like Oakenfold and Cox, and Fatboy Slim and people like that. And this is also when the size of the parties began, going out of the underground stage and very much into the above ground stage, shall we say. And if you, in the beginning of this era, if you had a party of 3,000 to 5,000, you were considering doing very well. By the end of this era, I mean, you had Electric Daisy Carnival and Nocturnal Wonderland drawing 40,000 a night, which now today sounds quaint.
Yeah, but at the time, it
was unbelievable. And remember that this was all in a time of total underground, do-it-yourself mentality. They had no major corporate support, no major radio campaigns, no major record label support, no major anything. It was all done from the grassroots level. And that was part of what made the thing such a wonderful experience, to be part of that as it expanded almost exponentially year after year after year. I mean, we knew at the time here in Southern California that we were at the very center of something very, very special. I mean, it was obvious. Yeah. There was no denying it whatsoever, you know.
Well, I remember because when you first hit me up and asked me to be a part of this project, my first thought was obviously, I'm probably not the guy. I wasn't even there, but we talked a little more, and then you gave me access to your Dropbox. I started looking at some of the photos, and it's interesting because from my perspective, like some of those photos, I remembered seeing those probably in Herb.
It's entirely possible.
Right when it started arriving in Detroit, I think like 96, 97 was when Herb went from a regional publication to a national publication.
Right.
This is also right when you started, photographing.
97, 98.
Right when
that's
this,
when
kind of second wave happened. So this all these things kind of came together.
Yeah.
And I remember reading Herb. I remember this kind of portal into the LA scene, even though it covered everything.
Oh yeah,
it
it was global. It was truly global, and that's another great do-it-yourself triumph for Raymond Roker to be able to build that enormous network.
And it was hard back then. There was no internet. Like nowadays, everything is, and it's not to say one's better or worse, but nowadays everyone has access to everything all the time.
Exactly.
Everybody, it's easy to know what every party's like in Berlin and Tokyo and Australia and LA and Detroit. And everywhere. Back then, it was just, you got these tiny little things. It wasn't even moving images. It wasn't YouTube. It was literally photos and words trying to convey.
From a party that was actually months ago.
Yeah, from a party that was 3-4 months ago.
Right.
And it was really interesting. I definitely remember we had this thing in Detroit where, because the whole like kind of candy raver thing very much grew out of LA.
Right.
And
that was very much a West Coast thing. We're not going to find much of that in New York. Well, no, that's not entirely true, because with the club kids thing in New York, there was a certain amount of candy stuff going on there. But you're right, especially in the Midwest, Chicago, Detroit.
We had fat pants and baggy polo shirts, and that was fresh jive, and that was kind of the extent of it.
Jenkos,
until your photos started arriving, in issues of Herb and maybe BPM
like
a little bit later with all these candy kids, and you saw the shift where suddenly the next generation of kids by like 98, 99 in Detroit were suddenly mimicking the LA look, because people will inevitably do what they see in the media.
Right. Well, and LA has always been the center of pop culture anyway.
Of course.
Rave or not.
Yes.
So there's that aspect.
No, it's not limited. It's not limited to electronic music or the rave scene. That's a natural effect.
But it does have that advantage of being like, oh, Hollywood, or something like that.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So people
or in a lot of our cases it was Hollywood.
We had those moments too. Believe me. I mean, it's. There were definite advantages to being in the middle of that whole thing.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, not only did we have all the wonderful venues and stuff here in LA, but we had all the talent that was either coming through here on a regular basis or was moving here. People like, Paul Oakenfold and Dave Ralph, and DJ Raps, Sandra Collins, Christopher Lawrence. I could go on and on, but, it was so fantastic to be able to go from a tiny little, not even a warehouse party, just a little place with 50 people in it where, like, Doc Martin, may be somewhere in downtown LA, and then the next day you could do Nocturnal Wonderland at the Orange Show with, 30,000 people, it was, and everything in between.
And I want to ask you one last thing. Why do you think now was the time to put this book out? Because,
It's, partly because of the success of EDM. There's now an audience in the mainstream that is a bit more open to the stories of what's going on in the rave scene, certainly more than there were in the mainstream back then.
Right.
I mean, you remember well how the mainstream media did their utmost to belittle and ostracize, the rave scene in any number of ways, whether it was in the news or whether it was in sitcoms, or whatever. I had my foot in many different social scenes over the years, and I have yet to find a scene that was more really unjustly singled out like the rave scene was. I felt that there had to be a voice in, coming from another direction.
But what about now? Does this feel like vindication? Does it feel like
Yeah,
we
there's a
won,
certain-
or does it?
Well,
kind of-
the fact that EDM, as distasteful as some of it may be, the fact that it has been so overwhelmingly successful. I mean, that's the sweetest revenge, of the rave scene. I mean, without the rave scene, there's no EDM. The fact that we made this possible, and the fact that we're finally beginning to be recognized for that, long overdue. The fact that this is finally being aired out in the public, I mean, yeah, that's there's a certain amount of vindication to that.
Nice. So again, the book is great, and I don't just say that because it has my name in the credits. It's a really nice book. Where can people get it?
Okay, mainly if you want to get it online, you can go to the book's website, which is dancefloorthunderstorm.com. The book is not yet on Amazon. We're working on that. And it's also available in a number of book and music stores in and around the Los Angeles area, including Book Soup and Skylight Books and the great Dr. Freeclouds down in Fountain Valley, run by our old friend Mr. Ron D. Core.
Nice.
And
Did I also see it's at Amoeba as well?
It is. It's at Amoeba Music, yes. And there's a possibility that we might be able to get it up in an Amoeba San Fran as well, which would be very nice.
That would be great.
Yeah. And Dance Floor Thunderstorm, though, is the .com is the main place to go.
All right. Awesome. Well, Mike, thanks for coming by, and
my pleasure.
More importantly, thanks for making me a part of this project, and thanks for taking all these great photos and
Absolutely.
sending us on that trip back.
It was a fantastic journey, both the original journey and the journey of making the book, as hard and as arduous as it was.
Cool. So people can go online, they can check out a sample of the photos, and when they like what they see, they'll order the book.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot, Michael.
My pleasure.
I mean, I gotta say, I've been in quite a few studios over the years, but with this view, I don't know how you get anything done.
To be honest, it's actually the best working environment that I've been in my entire life. I only moved to LA about a year and 2 months ago, and the studio got done in February of last year. And honestly, it's such a serene place, and anybody who I come and work with, we get so much done, and it's very relaxing. There's no stress, there's no nothing, phone's never ringing, people aren't walking in, and then this view is just...
It's super relaxing. For those who can't see it, we're literally the control desk in the studio looks out through these massive bay windows onto downtown Los Angeles and the Hollywood Hills. We can see the Hollywood sign.
And if you look to the left, right there, the Hollywood sign right in front. Yeah, totally. No, you know what? I'm very fortunate. I really feel that because of, I don't know what it is. All I know is that about 2 years ago, I put out into the universe that I wanted to get my life back in order, and slowly but surely I committed. I did the hard work, sober, the whole thing, and it was. I feel like the universe kept giving me, positive. It was showing me positive things, and as long as I stayed on the right road, wonderful things kept happening. And when this place came around, it was just like, wow! Like I never even knew this was possible. To be honest with you, I wanted to move into the West Hollywood Hills because that's where everybody told me that's where the cool place is. I'm so happy I live here. It's like so beautiful. It's out of the way a little bit, but not really. Like I can get to anywhere I want to get to. And to be honest, I've been able to get so much work done. It's been incredible. And I wake up in the morning and I leave my house to go to the gym or to go do certain things, but for the most part I'm here and it's just comfortable. I just feel like it just feels right. For like the first time I walked into his house, it just felt right. So I feel very lucky and very fortunate.
I'm curious as to like how much of that is the house versus the change versus sobriety versus, and that's something I was going to kind of wait a little bit before we get into, but you
absolutely. You know what? Actually,
right
I was having this conversation with somebody in Australia, and I said, if this house would have happened at a different time, would it be the same, or would it have just been complete chaos? So I think that it's a little bit of everything, like everything in life. Like if people say, how do you make it in the music industry? So, 10 part luck, 10 part this, 10 part that. I think that I've come into this place at the right time in my life, and I really feel like it's a little bit of everything. I think that the fact that the change in life now, with, having this kind of scenario, having my studio now, and just being mentally in the place that I'm in, I'm able to be very productive, and just my outlook in life right now is so positive, and I no longer get angry about things, and not that things don't bother me.
Sure.
I am not perfect by any means, nor is my life perfect. Things happen. My aunt was just in the hospital yesterday. Things happen in life. It's just, how do you deal with it? Do you stay upset with somebody for a long time, or do you just learn to let go? Because a lot of us think life happens to us, and we tend to blame things for where we are in our life, as opposed to realizing that we got to accept responsibility for whatever it is that we're doing. And we make the changes. People say, oh my God, my girlfriend did this to me. Well, who chose that girlfriend? Who brought that person into your life? So anything that you do is you. Anything that, when people say, I'm so stressed, I have so much on. Who put it there? People didn't put it there. You chose that path. So it's kind of like, and I used to do that to myself. Believe you me, I was guilty of, trying to do too many things at one time and saying, yeah, I'll go to Australia, and when I get back, I'll do a session for a week, and then I get back and I'm pulling my hair and I'm screaming at people and I'm all stressed out. But it was all me. But I was blaming my career.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And there seems to just be the idea that, I'm on a very similar trajectory as you in that I got sober about a year ago.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And so same basic idea. And it seems these things like just come up. First off, you're amazed how much time you have. Like you, it's like your life just doubled in terms of the productivity you are capable of doing.
Absolutely.
When you're not losing hours or days or
there's things
whatever.
That, for me as well. There are things that you have to kind of realize, which is, my first fear, and I know this is not a sobriety talk or whatever, or talking about this whole situation, but my first fear that I had to get over was that my life wasn't going to be boring if I stopped doing those things. Right. And then they always say, and I've been to AA, is like, just take it easy, just take it one day at a time and really take a step back in your life. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And because I did that, then I was able to put into it little by little the things I wanted to, slowly, which a lot of people may have that luxury, but it is the best way to do it, because now I only have around me, and when I make schedules or when I make appointments, I make sure I don't have, even today, to me, like doing this today, and then I have a session with Ellie and Fur later today, and I'm doing my yoga. To me, that's as stressful as it gets, because I know not to put too many things, and that way it keeps me in a place where I'm like, not stressing, just keep it calm, because there are always going to be the other things that come into life that you're not expecting, the phone call from this one or that one. So I agree with you 100%. It's like, you do double in productivity, you do everything that you think can't happen will happen. I mean, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I'd be living in LA, right? Making some of the best music I've ever made in my life, DJing and enjoying it again. I would tell you, you're absolutely insane. But everything that I said I wanted to do 2 years ago, it's happened because I'm staying focused and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And that's the thing about life. It's about being focused and not speaking you're going to do it. It's doing it. A lot of people say, I'm going to do this, but then they go out partying every weekend. You're not going to get nothing done like that. Even if you say, oh, I just do it on the weekends. You know what? Sometimes you need to give your head a little bit of chill time so that when you hit the Monday again, you're rocking. As opposed to, oh, I hate Mondays. You should not hate Monday. Monday should be the best day of the week. You know what I mean?
And oddly, like, you were very vocal, or you have been very vocal about the importance of being part of the party. And there's literally like a quote on your Wikipedia page that says, like, some DJs, like, they finish playing and they leave. That's not what it's about. It's about being, it's being part of the party, being in it.
Totally. But what does that mean? Does party mean doing drugs? Does it mean alcohol? Or does it just mean being, like, I now can go and hang out with the promoters. I was just in Australia. We went out, a couple of nights. And we were like bonding, and the biggest thing one of them kept saying is like, man, is this really you? Because I heard you were like, so like, you were going to be this, you're going to be that, and you're so cool. Like, and that's what I meant about if you're a DJ, you got to network. And networking isn't necessarily, just like calling somebody and saying, hey, it's hanging around. It's being in the trenches, but it's about you knowing yourself and what you can and can't do. And that is, I think, where people get, when I say party, it doesn't mean like, let's go and get let's go, get fucked up. No, it just means be there, hang out, and let people see your personality and create a bond, if you will, friendship of sorts. It's not just business now, it's friendship. And that's how most of my, you got to understand, I didn't start partying until I was 35. So, and I broke when I was 21 when I did I Like to Move It. So for me, you know, when I said I would go out, you know, I would go out with some of the craziest guys in the UK, Dave Beer, who used to do Basics, you know, I mean, all the big, you know, the big party guys.
Legendary.
Exactly. And then
what was the British word for that? There's a very distinct phrase, not punter.
I mean,
I'm forgetting it right now, but there was a great word that was always in the British like music magazines that basically described like the biggest party alcohol drug fiends. And,
oh my God!
it's one of those words only the British could have. Like,
yeah, absolutely, and I would say
Dave Beers was like the quintessential.
Even so, what I would do is I would go hang out with them, and at the time, of course, a lot of the American DJs had a reputation of being very. You know, very not going to mention names, but you know, but a lot of the big New York guys, they would just go do their job, get the hell out, and kind of thing. And I was like one of the first guys that, let's go, where we going, you know, and hanging out with them till the sun came up, and we had a great time. And that's how I forged a lot of my relationships in the UK, and I think that helped me become, you know, blow up in that country and then take it out from there. But so I just think that networking is a very big part of it, and it doesn't entail you going out and hanging. Doesn't mean you have to go get fucked up. I mean, if you want to, be my guest.
Just be who it's fun
It is
to be
what
around.
it is. I mean, you know,
sure.
In this industry you can find it anywhere, but it's about just being out there and getting to know people and letting people know who you are. Because especially now, I could only imagine now a DJ coming up right now must be so hard because everybody's a DJ now. You know, it's almost like a bad word. You know, especially like, you know, it's like if somebody, oh, I'm a DJ or a girl like who's a model and like I'm a DJ, I'm like, oh God, here we go again. You know what I mean? I mean, nothing against women. Like, listen, let me tell you something. Some of the best DJs I'm hearing these days are these girls that are coming up right now, and I think they try double hard because, you know, they do have, there's a certain stigma about it, but, you know, man, there are some talented girls out there, let me tell you. I just signed a pair to my label as well, so I'm really excited about the scene, but it must be tough kind of coming up right now in this industry.
Yeah, well, even back in the day, it was. I mean, I used to run a club in Detroit, in like you know, the early 2000s, and our standard
had to be techno for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, except when you know techno or trance or whatever, you know, whatever was going on that month. But literally, our standard for who to book on any given weekend was, you know, okay, first you need to think about like, okay, who's going to fill the club, who's going to, you know, keep us in business. Yeah. If that wasn't the factor, then it was okay artistically. Who do we want? Who, you know, like bring in Stacey Pullen or so, because we just love Stacey and we want to hear him play, you know, open to close once a month, and we don't care if it's the biggest night of the month. Yeah. The third standard was who do we want to have dinner with, and that's where you know the factor you're talking about comes in. Like there's you know I could distinctly remember. Well, I'll just say it, Dave Ralph, who was you know this UK trance DJ, not our personal taste. And not necessarily not going to sell out the club, going to do all right, but we just loved hanging out with Dave. So we made him a monthly resident or bi-monthly resident, or just because he was like one of our favorite people to hang out with. And so there's absolutely that, you know, you need to be part of. I agree. The community.
And you almost create a family. Even like when I used to do my residency at Pasha in Ibiza, the second year I did it, I came in with CDs for every staff member. When I say everybody, I mean 170 people, free CDs, free T-shirts, free everything. And it's not kissing ass. It's just, you know what?
It's making people feel like they're part of it.
And that, you know what? I'm not here and you're here or whatever. We're a family. And I think that helped kind of make that a 13-year run, which is one of the longest DJ residencies in Ibiza. And, you know, whether it was Ministry of Sound as well. Like, I knew the entire staff, and they're huge. Whether it was from the record company or from the magazine or from the radio or whatever, I knew people. I went in there, I took it, made a point. When I went to London, I went to meet everybody. And I think that that's also a thing that helps. And I don't think, you know, if you don't have that personality, it's okay. But definitely if you're going to be a DJ, I think that promoters are people that, you know, these are the people that you know you're gonna know over the next 10 years, 15 years if you're gonna be here for the long haul, you know. And there's not, you know, it's a very small circle. All it takes you is being an asshole to one person for everybody to say that guy's a fucking dick.
Yeah. What I think you're allowed to. It's a podcast. It's a podcast for Vice. You can swear.
Awesome.
But I think one of the unfortunate things that happens is, you know, a lot of really, you know, musically inclined people, musically talented people are not the most outgoing people, which I think in a lot of ways is, you know, either why they end up turning to alcohol or drugs to kind of get over that initial awkwardness, or they make that initial approach and it's the awkward gets confused for being an asshole, so someone gets a bad reputation when all they, you know, in if you're on the receiving end, you thought that person was really standoffish.
Yeah.
But if you were in their head, it's one of those moments where their stomach's in knots and they're terrified, and it's literally, some people say like that's the moments when you're in hell. Literally, like when you're in those just uncomfortable moments. It's the definition.
I know someone like that is very big actually, and he can't even look at people in the eyes, and he's a very big name, and he's a computer guy, and sometimes a lot of the younger kids too, I think, coming up as well, social skills are not high because of the whole computer and the way the world is going.
A lot of people never interact.
Yeah, exactly. So
outside of
texting I guess I'm glad I'm glad I'm an old man, I guess. But I didn't grow up that way. I used to actually go out and play and stuff. But yeah, I mean, definitely living in the uncomfortable sometimes and confronting that fear is probably one of the biggest things that will help you in anything you do. And for me, like I said, my biggest thing, my thing wasn't alcohol. My thing was drugs. Right? It was ketamine, whatever. I'm gonna put it out there. Who cares?
Okay.
And then what happened was that the fear of giving up alcohol kept me saying, well, I'm gonna give that, but I'm not an alcoholic, so why do I have to stop doing that? And I went to rehab 3 times, and they all said, but without giving up alcohol, you're not gonna. It's about abstinence, and the thought of abstinence was that brought such a fear in my mind that it kept me going back and going back. And it wasn't until it actually made the decision of abstinence that it finally took. Because they always say, when they used to say things like alcohol is a or whatever, any drug is a, what's the word, not a pathway but a
gateway
to
sure.
Now I get it. Because it lowers your defenses,
inhibitions,
and then you're totally like oh well, maybe just one, and once you go down that road, it's over. So it's kind of it being uncomfortable and dealing with that and dealing with the fear is really, really one of the biggest things in life in general. One of the best things I did in the last 2 years was jumping off a plane. Something I've been talking about for 13 years. Oh, I would love to go skydiving, but never did it. Oh, I would love to skydiving. Yeah, let's do it. Never called. Never. Finally, somebody called me and said, hey, you coming to Dubai? You wanna jump out of a plane? At first, I'm like, are you crazy? Hung up the phone. 15 minutes later, I'm like, what are you scared of? Let's do it. Called back, said, all right, let's set it up. I was scared. I was shitting in my pants. Because you have to go tandem. So I was attached to this girl, and we're sliding down the thing, and I'm like, am I really doing this? And all the way, as soon as you jump out of the plane, I let the scream out. It was so loud. They heard me on the plane. That's what I'm saying, right? It was the most scariest, most wonderful thing I ever did. After that, I go on roller coasters now, eyes open. It's like I confronted a particular fear, and life is about that. It's about confronting your fears, and even though it's right there, who are you going to be? Who are you going to be in that moment? What are you going to do? So, although I understand sometimes it's uncomfortable, you can't let that hold you back. And if you are, then maybe this is not the job for you. So the question is, are you ready to confront your fears, whatever they may be? And, for me, it was that, and that helped me. I'm telling you, nowadays, for me to say no to something, or for somebody to say, let's do something, and me not, whatever it is, whether it's talking in front of a big crowd, or whatever it may be, even the dumbest things, like going to a costume party at my friend's house, and it's just going to be his family or something, and having to wear a costume, okay, let's go, it's just the little voice that's always going to come up. It's always going to be there. Are you crazy? Don't do it. And then you just got to be like, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
I had a very kind of similar stressful experience. I literally had to put a friend on an airplane out of town to get him back into rehab last week. Wow. And going through that, he's a very old, very close friend. But this was the first time where I've had to confront the situation, because in previous times we've been living in separate cities, so it was always like I heard about it later, either from him or from somebody else. It was kind of my turn, and I remember having that kind of moment. I was driving over to his house to kind of check out the situation, see how bad it was, thinking, okay, this could end up taking him to the airport right now. I don't know what I'm getting into, and all the anxiety starts building up. And so I just had a moment where I'm like, well, it's happening no matter what. So I'm just going to walk in completely, completely open to it. Because it's going to happen either way. It's up to me whether I want to fight it. And that's, that's what they say. That's always they say the quickest way to change your life is just change your perception.
Absolutely. Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
It was weirder than I could have imagined.
Really? It was weird. Okay, got
and
it.
we laughed about it the next day once he had kind of sobered up a little. Like, it was weird.
Got it.
Nothing I would have guessed would have happened. But it's having that attitude of, like, once I walked in, I was like, this is what I have to do right now. Yeah. And this is going to break kind of every, ounce of decorum or what our friendship has always been about. Yeah. This is a whole new realm. And just doing
That's it. Just doing it completely.
And it felt, as tough of a, situation as it was, and, still is very fresh. I think because of that approach, it felt, rather than feeling traumatic at the time, it felt almost like exciting. Like, almost like the rush comes. You don't have to jump out of an airplane to get that rush. Doing the most mundane thing that for you in your head stresses you out, and doing it without stress. That's like almost as big of a rush.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, like, a lot of the times I used to talk myself out of doing, like, later in life, this is like, the last 5 years or so, I would talk myself out of going to certain events or going to whatever, like, I would just try to stay home, right? Because of this, because of that. Whenever I would confront that and go, I would have the most amazing times. And this is another lesson for you kids. The universe, and I call it the universe, and people call it God, so people call it whatever you want to call it. I call it the universe. The universe has a weird way of guiding you, and always listen to the universe. And if something says don't do it, even though as bad as you want to do it, if something's telling you not to do it, don't do it. Because a lot of times when you force things, they end up not being what you want it to be. That's why people always say, New Year's is such a letdown. Yeah, because expectation is ridiculous.
When we're living in the age of, FOMO. So that's like literally that whole phenomenon that we've been, dealing with forever, and humans have been doing forever. It now literally has a name.
Yeah. So I just think, I'm in a really great place in my life right now, and the clarity is there. And like I said, every day certain things happen, they don't happen, whatever it is, and it's just my outlook right now in life. And I think that's why musically now, things are just flowing right now.
That's amazing.
I'm very excited.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you one more thing.
You can ask me
as far as on this topic, and then we'll move on. You said you didn't start partying until you were 35.
That's correct.
Which I think to most people sounds insane.
I know.
But I've seen it, particularly with, musicians and DJs of, your era, people from Detroit, people from, New York. Because there was definitely this, not a squeaky cleanness, but a bit of a, I'm from Detroit, and it's like, oh yeah, the old Detroit guys don't really party. I just, imagine kind of same in New York. What were you thinking?
How?
I'll tell you 35.
How. I'll tell you why. I had success very early on, right? Very early. I like to move it when I was 21, almost 21. So it pushed me into, we need an album right now. And, going to England and being a pop star and coming back here, being a nobody in fucking New Jersey. And it was like, okay, I got to do this. So hiring my friends and all of a sudden I start getting calls. Hey, we have a tour for a reel-to-reel to go to Germany for $65,000 for a weekend. And huh? What? So having to hire a friend to handle that. And it was like having to handle everything that I thought was going to make me happy, which is having money. Because when I was growing up really poor, having money was the end-all be-all. So I had to mature and grow up really fast, or all these opportunities are going to fall, right? Okay. So I went from being a fuck up, which literally, I used to do a record for Strictly Rhythm when I needed $1,000. That's what they were paying me for a record, $1,000, okay? So whenever I needed one, we'd go, okay, I got to finish one like that, right? And I think that's what motivated me to finish a lot, records, so forth and so on. When this happened to me, I started traveling, and I didn't really know a lot of people, so I just started doing tours. And I had my vodka cranberry. That's what I used to drink. 2 vodka cranberries. Eric was happy, right? And nobody ever really. And then as I got older and I started gigging a lot more, people would offer me, but I'd be like, you know what? No, I gotta get on a plane tomorrow. That was the other good thing I did. I would fly to Europe, get there Friday morning, leave Thursday night, Friday morning, do my gig Friday night. Then the next day I have to go to another country or another place. It didn't really give me the opportunity. And sometimes I would stay up, whether it was a girl or drinking or whatever, but drugs was never, because I met DJs who, in the UK, who couldn't DJ unless they had 2 pills inside of them. And I'd be like, what is wrong with this guy? And I was always the guy that would say, watching the True Hollywood Stories, and right around the 42 or 43 minute, the life is like great, and all of a sudden they become an alcoholic or a drug addict. I'm like, how could somebody who has it all, right? How could you? But the thing is, as you go creating this bubble, right? The bubble, and all of a sudden, either it pops or something happens, like, that's when your insecurities become, and that's when you start grasping for whatever. And that's what happened to me. Was it was never about the party scene. Even though I had moved to Miami and whatever, when I was 35-ish, 30, around there, I moved to Miami, and I started dabbling a little bit. I started finally taking a weekend off. You understand, I used to work every weekend because money was it. That was going to be like, I had to make as much money as possible and blah, blah, blah. Like, that was my mentality. I was a workaholic, running Subliminal, managing DJs, managing my own career. I never had a manager, never had a booking agent, never had nothing. Everything was in-house. And I had by the way, I had some great people along the line that helped me do what I did. Amy Thompson, who now is a huge manager here, and she did the Swedes, and she did, all this great stuff that she's doing. She's managing Seal now. She was working at Ministry of Sound, and then she came to work with me. I can mention names, and you'd be like, really? Along the way, I've had some amazing people come and work with me, and that also helped. And there comes a little bit of luck and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It all came together. So it wasn't that I didn't want it. It was that I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know. I knew what smoking weed was. When I was 16, I smoked weed. But then when I got to be like 22, 23, it didn't work for me anymore. All I wanted to do was play video games and eat Cheetos, and that wasn't working with what I was trying to do. So, I did do that, but I'm talking about like ecstasy or even ketamine. I didn't even know there was such thing, ketamine. Now people doing G, I didn't know about any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Cocaine, I knew about it, but I always hated it. I thought it made me feel like jittery and like.
You don't seem like the type of person who would respond well to uppers.
I mean, yeah, I have a little bit of an energy thing that I do. So for me, I think that's why. So, all I tell people is that for me, what kept me in this zone was following my dream, and the fact that I was very fortunate and blessed enough to have success early on that really said, either you're going to wake up now or you're going to go down that path. Because back in those days, I would have been happy with a residency in New York City and never leaving New York again. That would have been happy. That would have been like, what, you're going to pay me every week to play in the club every week? I don't have to.
Well, it was about the best you could hope for. Like,
in those days, completely, So when this whole I Like to Move thing happened, like my eyes were just like wide open, and going to Australia and going to Germany and going to all these countries. It's like, wow. And everywhere outside America, it seemed like dance music was huge. I would come here and it was hip hop, rock and roll. Yeah, it was actually it was rock and roll, and hip hop was just bubbling up at the time.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah, it was just coming up. So I think that's what kept me in the place that I was, and not partying until I was a lot older.
But what happened? You moved to Miami, and
I just decided I'm going to start taking time off. I'm not going to work as much, and I started hanging out with people who would party all weekend, and
you suddenly had time,
and I started partying, and at first there were rules, which was you can't party when you're working, you can't bring like that, and that's what it was. So when I was home, but slowly but surely, my unhappiness and insecurities just started kind of creeping in. And then I started using more and more, and as anything else, at some point it stops working for you, and it becomes your crutch, and that's when it all, And then when it went down, it went down.
What were the insecurities though? Like it sounds like you...
career, having the music happen, blowing up in America, and I'm no longer making music because I decided to move to Miami and not make music anymore. I was gonna ride the DJ wave for a long time, and that was it. I was happy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, something I've always wanted, which was to bring dance music to America, was happening, and I wasn't a part of it. And having that feeling of, oh my God.
Like what year was this? This would have been like...
This would have been right around when the Black Eyed Peas kind of popped, right around there, right before that, because there were things like...
So early, mid-2000s, I guess?
Not that, no, because I moved to Miami in 2008.
So, okay, so
later. Later, a lot later than that. No, completely.
I guess that's when,
Because my whole thing lasted about a good 4 years. So, and then I stopped. So I'm 44. So you'll do the math. But
I forget how young you were when you started. Just based on your discography, because I just turned 40, and I would guess you were a little bit older than that, just based on your discography. But yeah, you were.
It's because Latino don't crack either, which is good. Thank God. But I'll tell you what, I've never felt this young. I don't know. Like I just put a video up on, and I was looking at it again, and I was dancing in Australia on this trip. Like I used to dance when I was 21, and I was loving it. Like I'm back to that. And getting back to the story, basically what happened was having that insecurity of, oh my God, like the guys who used to be underneath me now are bigger than me.
Sure.
And oh my God, what did I do? And now, now I got to start making that kind of music because I want to catch up with them. I was never a follower. I was always a doer, and whatever I did used to become a trend kind of thing, right? I don't want to say trendsetter because it sounds so cheesy, but kind of, if you look at my career, kind of,
if you're first, you're first.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're early, you're early.
I didn't invent disco filtered house, but I definitely took it to another level. You know what I mean? I added vocals, like that. So, my thing was always that, and when I started making that kind of music, the unhappiness that was inside from making stuff that I don't like, or playing stuff I don't like, I never DJ because of anything else. I loved it. I started doing when I was 11. I love music. But when I found myself dropping a record and going, oh, I can't believe I'm dropping this record, but getting the reaction.
Yeah.
But it was.
Oh, that's got to be some sort of cognitive
dissonance. Oh my God!
dissonance.
It's like I can only imagine it being like you two having the last day of the tour where they're having to play that same fucking set. You know what I mean? Even though they have some amazing music, but. They've been doing it for how long now? I'm sure when they have to play Sunday Bloody Sunday, I'm sure Bono's like, okay.
It can be a little hard to take.
Totally. So it was kind of like that. That's why people always say, play it like tomorrow. I'm like, no, I can't. You know what I mean? I'd rather have somebody else play it, and if they play it, I know all eyes go on me, which is, like Fatboy Slim still, he plays it here and there, and it's great, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because now I'm all about happiness, and what makes me happy right now, makes me happy, is playing the dirtiest, funkiest. Like, I like to hear people go, ooh, or like, yeah, but from like the record being so dirty that you get that reaction. And that's what makes me happy. And now I'm not going to compromise, And if I don't have another hit record ever again, I'm okay with that. I'm happy. And that is now what's all about. Quality of life, brother.
Well, and you're also in the super blessed position where, I just said blessed. I can't believe I just did that, but where your one hit keeps coming back and regenerating.
Thank God.
But obviously financially that's got to be a great
By the
thing.
way,
but
it's awesome.
For your creativity and for to have that keep coming back at you.
I don't have no problem with it because, like you said, no, it's not just a financial thing. It's like I feel like now I created something that is gonna be here with people for forever. I hope
it's gonna be stuck in my head the rest of the day. So
but Madagascar, introduce it to a whole new generation, and now my friends' kids know the record, and it's like that thing, that connection. It's. I mean, look, I'm getting goosebumps. That record has done so many wonderful things for me. And it's not just a financial thing. I got to see the world. I got cultured. I got to meet incredible people. Just so many things that I could never look at that record and go, ugh. But as a DJ, it's a whole other thing. Dude. As a DJ, I can't play it because it doesn't satisfy me, unless I'm gonna do a classic set, or I'm gonna do I'm gonna go play like a 90s set. Okay, for sure I'm gonna drop it then, but it's like a special occasion kind of thing. But now with what I'm playing, it just doesn't go. It would be like night and day. So as a DJ, it wouldn't fulfill me. But as a person, man, it's one of the best things that happened in my life. Yes, that would be probably second to Buy My Mother a House. That would be number 2.
Right, and one kind of led to the other.
Kind of,
it's all kind of all the same event.
It's all intertangled, yeah, completely.
So let's go back a little, and you were born in Colombia.
I was actually born in New York and then raised in Colombia. From the age of 3 to the age of 9.5, I lived in Cartagena, Colombia, and it was, again, my mom and my dad split up. So my mother couldn't afford to keep me and my sister, so I got shipped. My sister was just born. I got shipped over there, not shipped, I was flown over there. Anyway, and I grew up there with my aunt and my uncle and my 3 cousins. And when I was there, I was a little sad because of my mom. But now I look back, if it would have been for that, who knows if I would have ridden horses, gone to the beach. Because growing up in 141st Street and in Broadway in Harlem. You don't go to the beach. You don't do the kind of things that I did over there. I got to farm, learn how to swim. Like, just a lot of things that now I take for granted until I start to think about, like, all the things that I really did while I was there. And my appetite for music came out of there. Listen to these cumbia bands, and, my uncle and my aunt, they would go out, and we, they knew people, and we would go, and it was just, everything kind of started for me from there. And then my mom started sending me cassettes of Donna Summers and Village People, and I had a little play school, little boom box. I would, anytime I liked a song, whether Spanish or English, rewind, play, and that's where the love for music came. But it wasn't until I came back from there, my entire family moved to New Jersey, Union City, New Jersey. Yes, New Jersey. The year after, a neighbor of mine, I went to the house with my mother visiting 2 seconds. And he was DJing in the living room with 2 turntables. He had 2 1200s. I remember the 2 1200s and a mixer. And I was just in awe. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he was in college. He's like, dude, I'm DJing. He's like this guy. You know, it's really funny how he did it. And ever since then, I was like, Mom, can I have 2 turntables and a mixer? Mom, please. She's like, are you crazy? I can't afford that, blah, blah, blah. So finally, the following year, she got me 2 Scott turntables, worst in the world, and a Gemini mixer. But again, everything happens for a reason. So these Gemini turntables, when you push them back too quickly, the needle has to reset itself before you can put it back on the needle. Which, learning on those things, and the pitch control with a little wheel, a little wheel like this, that if you did it too much, and the record would sound funny. So learning with that kind of, having to have that kind of sensitivity, by the time I got to the 1200s, they were like,
it's like they mix themselves.
I could do whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? And again, everything happens for a reason. When I got those Scott turntables and my friends started coming over, go, haha, you got Scotts? You know what? In the end, I'm the one laughing, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, everything always happens for a reason. Everything that you think is a negative, it's for a reason. That's why my entire experience has been a positive, because I found my love for music again. And I can't really, I can't tell you how important that is for me, because I thought I had lost. I thought I didn't love music anymore. Because I couldn't find the answer. When I was telling you, I was not telling you it was killing me inside. I didn't know, because I would just run and get numb.
Yeah.
Instead of, why am I so unhappy? I didn't deal with it. I didn't deal with anything. I was just like numbing, numb. But anyway, so I'm from Columbia, New Jersey. And I was just always a school DJ, a high school DJ, competing with a couple of my friends who, everybody had a sound system. I was the only one who didn't, because I couldn't afford it. So whenever they would give me a school dance, I had to pay my friends to lend me a speaker, pay my friend to lend me turntables, pay everybody. So by the time it was done, maybe I walk away with $10. But I was the happiest man in the world. I didn't care. I got to see my name on a school flyer, and it was great. And that just kind of grew into itself, and it all went from there, really. I was DJing in go-go clubs. That's why my rock collection is extensive. Because, back in those days, you had to play rock and roll in strip clubs. That was it. AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, all that stuff. I have it all, you know what I mean? So Meatloaf, you name it, And again, it was great, because when I parlayed it into house, I was one of the first guys to start dropping rock records into sets. And then it kind of took off, Nirvana, hello. No, it wasn't like I took that from somebody. It was one day, boom, and that's the way. Now, dun, 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 dun. I was one of the first people to ever drop that. That was my calling card in Italy. I dropped it one day, and in Italy, the whole place started chanting it. And ever since then, every gig after that, every time I would go on, they would be chanting it until I would play it. It was crazy. This is now it's like
now it's hockey games
completely, but that whole rock and roll thing kind of played a role in my having success, or having an additional bit of success in places. So you never know. That's why I always tell people, be true to yourself. Even if it's not cool right now, just keep doing it. Perfect it. Don't worry about it. Just, if that's what feels right, do it. Trust me, at some point it's gonna come, and then you're gonna be that guy. And that's what it's all really about. That's what it's all about.
I think it's funny that you bring up, there's been kind of 2 songs that have entered that sports arena canon. At least I guess in my lifetime, I basically our lifetime. It's Seven Nation Army, you just mentioned, and
Absolutely.
then also
that one's huge. What about the what it's called? The song is called 192. The Blur guys.
Yeah.
That one. And then go back. Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Roses, huge. Are You Gonna Go My Way?
Do they play that?
I played it.
You played that? Okay.
I'm telling you.
I bet you go to a Lakers game. Do they play it?
No. I'm talking about that I would play. I would be in a gig.
Okay, yeah.
And all of a sudden you hear, because I would loop it. Once the CD players made my life, it just completely changed everything. So all people would hear is, and when the other drums come in, the guitar come in, the whole crowd will go insane. I'll be in Spain, people go just ballistic, because nobody plays a freaking Lenny Kravitz song in a house gig, Again, people will say, what are your biggest moments in DJing? I said 9/11. I played Frank Sinatra, New York. Sometimes you just step out of the norm, And people, but now I even hear like Local Dice and these guys. People love these guys a lot because in the middle of the set they'll drop like whether it's an old hip hop record, something unexpected, and then they just go back, and everybody be like, "Did that just really happen?"
Yeah.
And I think that is. That creativity is what, like, again, for me, it was amazing because to be able to leave that gig and go, they'll go, you know what you like? Did you know when to play a record? I said, I know, because I feel it, I know. So it's kind of there's been a lot of rock and roll, but here's the thing: in America, people don't have that culture yet, or let me go backwards. They have a different culture of. That's why I think trap right now and like people like Carnage are blowing up because he's kind of doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and now America's ready for it. You know what I mean? They're ready for someone who can play a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of trap, a little bit of what they call EDM, I guess, and do it in a way where it's fun. And he's having fun doing it. I think that it's a beautiful thing. I was the first guy to drop a drum and bass jungle record in my set. I used to drop this record, something Levy, General Levy, I think it was called Incredible. Someone put this at. What was the name of the club? It was with Steve, Bobby and Steve. They used to play for Kiss FM in London. And they had like the biggest house party, like house, but underground house. And I was like the last DJ on, and I towards the middle of my set, I dropped Incredible. And the place lost it. And at first when I played it, I could see their faces like open up because that's not what they're used to. So for me, I used to take little chances and do little things. I mean, Louis Vega used to call me the techno kid. Me, techno. I'm the furthest thing away from techno that they could have been. But I used to be a little different than what he used to do. He used to like it. Like
super
like that,
super
and I,
soulful,
whenever he heard me play, I would drop records, and he'd be like, "Oh, you play the techno again." I mean, I'm talking about playing like the smooth touch, House of Love, He thought that was techno, but it was like I think that's the beauty of music. It's just do whatever feels right. I'm still trying to figure out how I could get opera into this because if I could get that vibe of opera into. Man,
I'm sure somebody's tried.
There's been like good opera records that have been trancey or that have been like like you said like stadium records.
Well, the Tiesto.
Yeah, and even the where I took the that was a long time, a techno record, T99 something 99. Anyway,
it's so hard to talk about techno records. You're the one's like,
it's one of the reasons why I always say put a lyric on the record, even if it's just one word. So if somebody wants to go find it, they say that record that says whatever it is.
Okay.
Because if you go into a record store going, a record that goes and like, all of them.
Now I do remember. I was just living in Berlin for the past 4 years. I just moved back to Los Angeles.
Berlin is an amazing place. Wow, man. What a vibe over there. What a vibe.
I remember like in the cab going to Berghain at like 5 a.m. sort of thing, where it's like kind of going for a morning session, and whatever the radio station was playing, Ravel's Bolero.
Oh shit!
You want to talk about the perfect it's like
a movie. It's like a movie.
Like as you're pulling up to that place,
it's like you have a perfect soundtrack
for
that.
Somebody's got to play that. Like I'm like, why has nobody opened their set with that?
Let me tell you, it's so many great things out there. It's just stepping out of your bubble. Again, you live in a bubble, stepping out of your bubble, and like getting creative, and that's really what it's all about.
I do sometimes think that it's gone too far though, or where it's all about. Just hit.
That's what I was about to say. If every other record is that, then we're talking about something different. I'm talking about one record in your set that people aren't expecting. But by the way, there are DJs who like a Carnage or whatever who drop hit records. You know what? There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. It's a beautiful thing. It's whatever everybody wants. There's nothing right. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing. Everybody do your thing. What I'm talking about, I'm talking to the kids out there who love something. Don't do something just because somebody else is doing it. Do what you love. At some point, what you love is going to come. It's going to come around. But most importantly, start to make music. You don't have to be musically inclined. You don't have to even know what's an A or what's a B flat. If you want to learn, you can go learning as you're creating. But the honest truth is, if you feel music, you'll be able to create a track, especially with the way these programs are today. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, the things you can do now in an hour would take us a week to do, Sure. Like just putting a time stretching a vocal and putting it into, now it's like, boop, done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So things have changed.
So it does it in GarageBand. It just comes with the computer.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The technology that the kids have at their fingertips now. It's incredible.
So do you think...
Do you think something's gotten lost though with the fact that you
Totally.
if you don't spend
100%.
you lose
100%.
You lose the 10,000 hour effect. You have to spend 10,000 hours doing something.
We used to call them happy mistakes. A lot of our loops and the way that we would get certain loops was when you used to truncate. And truncating means that when your start point and end point, you do with the sampler and you're just clicking and you're like, and you're like literally feeling it out. Now people just go for the beat. So boom. But most of my happy loops would come from in between there somewhere.
It's a little off,
and then it's like, which I would have never found if things were today. So there's definitely an art form lost. There's definitely... there's a little bit of everything lost. I mean, look at DJing nowadays. I mean, everybody's a DJ because computers now, you hook up the computer and you hit, quantize or whatever button you want to press, and it pretty much does it for you. I believe the art form of DJing, all these kids better go out and watch these DJs who really DJ, and actually, you mentioned Berlin. Berlin reminds me of the old school New York. Used to go to these clubs, used to get there 5 a.m, and these DJs would be doing these 18, 19-hour sets. Junior Vasquez with a tape machine, what he could do with a tape machine and the delay thing that he would do, where he would like shaka, 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 and just hold that thing for like 30 seconds and then bring an acapella into it. And you're like, is this really happening right now with the delays? I mean, there's nothing, and everybody stomping their feet on the fucking wooden floor. I can't. Where do you go see something like that right now? So
there's a serious lack of this, and I talked to Dan Tenaglia maybe like 2 months ago, and we kind of got into this, where I was like, where is the place where you can go here? Because I don't think Junior's really playing like that anymore.
No, he did a party I heard recently or something. It was like a big thing that he came back and played a gig somewhere, and people said it was really good. But no,
but it's not that like stomping tribal where it'll break down to like 8 minutes of hand claps, and But it's funny. And I went and saw Danny that night. He played a club here in Hollywood. Not a great not a great set, not a great scene, and he 3 hours, and he's just not gonna get there. But he did at one point. He brought in the Tori Amos sample, the Armand Van Helder remix of Tori Amos, which that's gonna make me happy anytime I hear that, which is not very often. But then he went into the tractor and he flipped that vocal a certain way, and it's that moment where you're just like, I'm there, I'm back at Winter Music Conference 2001, listening, in that that era and that kind of.
I used to love going to hear Danny Jr., like all these guys who used to do long sets. I mean, one of the most brilliant guys that were amazing, Robert Clavillis and David Cole. What they would do when David Cole played keyboards, and he was playing something that and then there's another record playing, and you think you're listening to, like for me though, I used to be at Palladium, like, wow, because I thought I was listening to this, and it was actually this, and then the vocal comes in, you're like, wait a minute. And they would just trip you out. And for me, the art of DJing is that. That's why now, ever since I came back, it's all about long sets. So like when I played New Year's Eve at Space, 14 hours. And when I get to play and be in my zone, I do some stuff that I go back and listen to my sets. I'm like, why do I do that all the time? But it's a moment. When I'm in the moment, I'm in the moment. And I love just dropping everything and letting something I love delays. I think to me is one of the things that makes people's hair stand up, and it makes you like when you go zoom, 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 and then you just slowly bring it back in, but then it's just the hi-hats, and then slowly bring things back. That's why I carry my filters. Every gig I do, I got my filters that I carry with me, and people are like, what do you, hello, because for me, it's about being able to create moments and being able to do things and manipulate music to be able to make people's hair stand up and make people go, when you got them. When you have them, there's no better feeling in the world. It's the most satisfying, which is why I'm addicted to DJing. I'm a DJ addict.
So is it where else are you playing for those kind of long sets? Is that
I play in New York, which now Pasha just closed down. So maybe for my birthday I might be doing Space for the first time in New York. Space Miami for sure. Like that now is into my they want me to do residency, but I like to play other places as well just to kind of spread it around. And I mean, when I go to London, sometimes I used to play Ministry. I haven't played now since last June or whatever. But I would do 8 hours, and that's good enough for me. Wherever I can go, wherever I can go long, I like to go long, And sometimes when it's not planned to, it's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? When you think you're gonna play 3 hours, next thing you know, 7 hours later, and you're like, they're like, should we tell the DJs to go home? Like, yeah, I got this.
Oh yeah, Danny emailed me from San Francisco the day after I saw the short set in LA, and he's like, "I wish you'd been in SF. I was supposed to play for 4 hours. I played for 10." I was like,
those are the, for me, those are the fun things, because the when it's planned, sometimes it's a little intimidating, and it's a little like, even when I go play space now, even though I know I'm gonna play long, I tell them, if the people are asking you, I'm doing 4 hours, and that's it. And then when I'm there, if the vibe is there, then that's it, let it go. And I was like, send everybody home, I'm cool, I got this. It's one of those things where the connection has to be there. Sometimes if you say you're going to do something for a long time, and it happened to me a long time ago, and then like after 3 hours, you already realize, it's not going to, it's not going to go down. Like Vegas, take Vegas for instance. I used to play at Tao, right? And I was one of the first, like, we started the whole kind of, I think I was one of the first DJs to play like one of the big clubs and have it go past a certain time, because over there the culture was 4:30, everybody's out. 5 o'clock, done. 5 o'clock, the place was rammed. This was the first time I played at Tao. I was on a Sunday, I don't know if it was Memorial Day or Labor Day. And I just kept playing and kept playing. And all of a sudden the sun started coming up. And I see the managers getting on top of each other, trying to pull down the blinds, because it never had happened. And the sun was just coming, blinding everybody. I ended up playing that day till 11 or 12 in the afternoon. And then we kept doing it every Labor Day, Memorial Day. And then that's when all of a sudden, everybody wanted to start playing on Sunday. All the other clubs started bringing all the big DJs on those weekends. And that came out of there. But, what I created with those guys was great. So now I go from Tao, they open up Marquee. I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be the same then. And I go play there. And by 4 o'clock, the culture wasn't there, one. I think maybe it was too new. I don't know why.
It didn't happen. Right.
So sometimes you think you're going to do something, and it doesn't happen. It's like, oh, what a letdown. But it is what it is, So nowadays, I don't plan it. I just let it happen. But, when, like I said, there's nothing better than playing a long set. I love playing a long time, especially like now. Even now, like the way I go through music now, literally every week, I got my batch of music that I'm going through. Where in the past, I was just sitting on my ass, just just kind of doing my own thing. I would play mostly all my stuff, but then I was living in my bubble. Now there's no more bubble. It's like just be and you listen to everything and see what everybody's doing, and then there's like these producers now that I like, and listen to their stuff, and
right. And then you're just gonna start putting out some music as well, like yours and other people's.
I'm so excited, man. I mean, like the first 6 months was a setup. We relaunched again in July, and I wanted to do like some of the like, techno, tech house stuff, and that's what I put out. And now, we got, not only do I have great records coming out now, which is the sound that I love right now, which is that kind of melodic tech house, but I'm gonna insert vocals into it, and that's what I did with Ellie and Fur. I got this other girl, Angel Taylor, and and they're not like diva vocals. They're like laid back. They're more like an instrument. No, I don't. I think for the time being, right now, verse chorus kind of songs in the music style that I'm playing doesn't exist. Never mind. Right now, in the music that I'm playing, even a word doesn't really exist.
Sure.
Like in the underground, the tech house, all those. You listen. I'm trying to do it so that it's an instrument, and it's not verse chorus. It's like a verse, a chorus. Let the music do its thing, and then maybe a chorus at the end. That's how I think I'm going to be able to do what I did with Disco Filtered to do to this style of music. So I'm really excited about that. Plus, we're doing remixes of all the old catalog. Coast just finished one of Harry's I Go Back. Did a great job. 11-minute mix with this big drop in the middle is crazy. Martinez Brothers doing Welcome to the Jungle. Nick Fanciulli's doing one of the Constipated Monkey tracks. So it's like a really, like the guys that I really love what they're doing right now. And so between that and records here and there by new artists and people that I'm excited, man. It's like I feel like it's 1997 again. You know what I mean? And I got but I'm on this side of the, I still go back to my, I have my house in Miami, and I live in Miami as well. So Miami's still my stomping ground, and my family's in New York. So it's kind of, I keep moving around, but I never felt as comfortable in my skin as I do right now.
That's
and
great.
I think that it's going to show in the music I put out, and it definitely is already showing in the gigs that I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, I was actually looking at the date, not the time, because I was going to call you out on one thing
Yes,
where
sir.
you'd say this feels like home.
Yes.
And I completely believe you.
Mm-hmm.
But like every DJ I know, like your Christmas ornaments are still up.
My what?
Your Christmas decorations are
Absolutely.
still up.
I was on tour.
Exactly. That's my point.
Oh, you would. No, but what I mean is comfortable. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Like for me, not to have any ants in the pants, to want to have to go out, or like to just get here and I just want to chill. And it doesn't really have to do with like like in Miami it was a little tough, right? Miami, every week somebody was there, somebody was flying in, somebody was gigging, So what do you say? No, I don't want to hang out. No, don't come over and say hello.
Try living in Berlin.
I can only imagine. In the winter, like in the wintertime, must be crazy. I mean, summertime would probably you get away with.
A weekend doesn't go by when 3 friends are DJing and 2 friends are visiting.
Exactly.
And everybody wants to go to Berghain for 20 hours.
And then on top of that, if I want to work in the studio and somebody's flying in, they're like, yeah, cool, we'll work on this day. But then they go out the night before, and they're like, oh, can we put... And nobody gives you 100%. They're like almost... When they have to go to the studio, they're like, okay, fine, I said I would do it, so let's do it. Instead of here, we have a session, people show up on time, people come to work, there's no talk of, hey, what's going on tonight? No, we work until we're done. And that's the difference between, I think, LA and Miami as far as like working-wise. And for me, New York, I don't like the weather, and that's why I left New York. So for me, that's why I said this feels like home.
You had to be loving last weekend,
It's a perfect kind of combination. And even though it adds 5 hours to my traveling to Europe, I don't care. And for me, that's a big deal because I do it a lot. So for me, it's a big deal. But I don't really care because this... I don't.
It pays up. And let's be honest, the lay down pods that they have now for the long haul flights.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to land. I'm like I could watch 3 more movies.
You're like me, right? Where you should go to sleep because you know you're gonna feel better. But then but I want to see that movie. And sometimes you find yourself watching movies that you don't even want to watch.
I'm kind of like I'm not doing this. I'm like. I spent a lot of money on this.
Let's enjoy it. If I sleep, can I have more caviar, please? More caviar. Oh, man, they hate me when I fly the Lufthansa. At least, although recently anybody who loves caviar, if you fly Cathay Pacific, they bring in your own thing. Your own. You know how in the other planes they have the big one and they give a little bit to everybody? They bring in your own thing in first class. That's amazing. Amazing.
The next step is you got to get the...
The next step will be private plane.
Well, no, but there's the Abu Dhabi airline that does.
You mean there's the rooms
with the shower?
Etihad,
yeah.
Etihad has the bedrooms down.
We were looking just for shits and giggles. My girl got obsessed with it the other night. We were like in bed. She's on her phone, just looking at all the photos. And it appears that only flies from London to Abu Dhabi is like the only.
No, here.
With that,
my friend's a stewardess. She stays here sometimes, she showed me pictures. She's like
from LA to where? To London?
To Abu Dhabi.
Oh, to Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. That's my doorbell, by the way.
All right. Then I guess that's the perfect timing.
Well, I just want to say, listen, thank you so much, and everybody out there. Just look out for Subliminal Records. I promise you, the releases that are coming out this year are going to. They're just going to flip the script in a lot of ways. So just enjoy and just thanks for the support for over the last... I'm young, so only 24 years, whatever it is. Thank you. I love you guys. Good brother.
That's it for this episode of the Rave Curious podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more conversations with key players in the electronic music community. If you like what you heard on this podcast, let us know. You can give us a shout on Twitter at Rave Curious. You can also like us on Facebook, Rave Curious Podcast. And of course, subscribe on iTunes to make sure you never miss an episode. That's it. Thanks for listening.
This is Satan's world. And Satan designed